right. Good morning and welcome, everyone. It is now the top of the hour, so we are going to go ahead and dive in. We do only have an hour today to cover quite a bit. Sage has done a lot of enhancements for us, but again, welcome. At the end, we might have a few minutes for questions. If we don't, no worries. Just please reach out to us. I'll provide you all the information to do that. If you're familiar with reaching out to support, you can always reach out to us that way for anything at any time. Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. So welcome to our Ethos Sage Intacct 2025 Construction Release webinar. Our agenda today is going to start out with the focus of the construction enhancements because that is our primary customer base. Some of you might be more investments or project accounting, but it is all applicable to that. So one of the first things I wanted to start out with was this. The WIP management has now been enhanced to give you the visibility into the line level detail as fine as the cost code and the cost types. That's a really big one that has been requested multiple by everybody in the community to Sage Intacct. So now we will be able to view those project costs and enter those PM forecasts at a level of detail as fine as that cost code and cost type, but it is on early adopter. If you are new to Sage Intacct, you may or may not be aware of the early adopter program. It is basically like a beta program, right? Like the expectation is that they would give you this option before general release, okay? And so then they would expect that you would give them feedback, tell them the things that are good, the things that you would like to see, if there's any bugs, those types of things. And then once it goes general release, it is then available for you, anyone outside of the early adopter program. Okay, what is the early adopter program here? It's going to allow a select group of customers. So not just everybody is able to be an early adopter, but this is the link for it here, and I will be providing that in the chat. There is another link in the chat too that has a direct link to the release calendar. There is 4 major releases a year, and during those releases, right, that's when all of the interface enhancements happen. And I just want you to understand that if you haven't been through a release before, this is your first time, you can see that Sage is really great about how they roll these releases out, as far as you never log in and are taken by surprise, right? Like the interface never is completely different. So a lot of times they will give you the option to turn on some of these enhancements or not. So again, that link is always available to you here in the interface for the calendar. If you go to your home button, right, this kind of brings you back to the default home page in your instance. You might have changed based on your preferences to have your home page be linked to do a dashboard or customize. And if you did so, you can always get to this information here in Help Center. There is a direct link here to the release notes that has the calendar as well. Okay, and so I just want to point out that link to you. That's in chat. It takes you here. Okay, so these are the 4 major releases a year. And in the instance interface, you will have linked to what's coming up, release notes, videos, things like that. But we kind of here at Ethos, what we do is we kind of break it down into only the relevant information for our customer base, right? Because Sage Intacct being international, their enhancements are sometimes out of the United States, they're not construction focused, things like that. Okay, so if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to go over any of that information with you. We are going to be covering this enhancement today, import change request. I think everybody's doing a happy dance right now. I know my entire team is. This has been something that has been requested since probably construction module or construction vertical has been released, right? Because change requests, if you're using change requests, you're using them quite a bit. And so there can be many, many lines. And so now there is the ability to do that. So we'll dive into that information. Also, you're going to be able to easily manage change request entry lines. You'll have greater control over how line entries are organized and displayed, and also how they're printed. Adding standard tasks. We know tasks in Sage Intacct means cost codes for most of our customers. I'd probably say 99% of you. We have updated that task dimension to be named to cost code, right? Then cost code and cost type. Well, previously it was a 1-by-1 checkbox to add those to the project, but now there is a bulk action, and I'll show you how to do that. Then we also will dive into including the primary document summary and details in the PO document templates, okay? And we're talking about those printed document templates that are Word docs that have merge fields. So again, POs, change requests, change orders, subcontracts, anything commitment-wise will have a printed document template that you can customize. It is simply a Word doc with merge fields, but we need to have that access. And that's kind of what we'll be talking about today, is this additional access we now have. Okay. Also, that would be printed document templates for invoices, statements, all of those things. Okay. If you're not familiar with that, we certainly are happy to answer those questions and kind of lead you down that path to get you informed. Construction enhancements continued. These are additional add-ons for the construction package for Sage Intacct, right? So we may not have time to really dive into these today, but I wanted to make sure that you know that they're out there. And I'll show you a link. There is a direct link that I'll provide in the chat that will take you out to this area in Sage Intacct where you can dive into the really detailed information. I could probably do at least a 30-minute webinar on all of these individually. So that's why we just want to stay really focused on the Sage Intacct construction core interface. But if you are using Sage Construction Payroll, right, that's Penta, used to be Penta Payroll, the Sage Construction Payroll that is in the interface of Sage Intacct, there has been some great enhancements. Okay, so definitely want to get out there and take a look at that and make sure that you're up to date on what these new enhancements are. These enhancements are always something that are improving your experience with the software, and it might be something that you want to add and incorporate into your daily standard workflow. Sage Construction Management. This is the Sage Construction Management, the project management application. So Sage Construction Management is an additional application outside of the Sage Intacct interface, but they link with their open APIs to feed back and forth from accounting to operations, right? So Sage Construction Management, they are building this program up. I am so excited. It's really fantastic already. They've came so far, but every release, they're giving us many new features and enhancements. So please get out there and take a look at that. Sage Field Operations, they've increased automation for agreements and added more data to reports. We love that. Reporting is so important, right? We want as much detail as possible for that. And metrics in the business intelligence solution. Sage Bid Matrix. Okay, Bid Matrix is doing some things with Sage Construction Management, but also has been known to work with Sage Estimating in the past. If these apply to you, definitely want to get out there and take a look at some of that great information about the new enhancements and performance improvements as well. Sage 100 customers. Most of you are not Sage 100. You may have came over from Sage 100, but do know that if you are using any of these, we call it legacy, but they're not truly legacy for the simple fact that they, you know, there's no end of date or end of life for Sage 100 or Sage 300. They're continuing to enhance them. But as you know, Sage 300 CRE here, this verbiage can get kind of crossed over. Some people are calling Sage Intacct Sage 300 CRE that are now moved over that were Sage 300 clients. What I'm referring to here is the on-premise software, okay? And so definitely take a look. In addition to those updates, we are also going to talk about some of these core ones, right? There is a lot more. I could probably spend 3 hours at minimum talking about all of the enhancements that apply to us here in North America for just construction. So I picked the most important ones that will affect the most of the most number of clients that we have, right? So line level matching for smarter purchasing automation. This is in an early adopter, right? So you would require that you sign up and approved from Sage to be an early adopter. And then again, that expectation of giving us feedback, what works, what doesn't work, did you find a bug? But this is for anybody using these AP to PO automation that's available now, right? It is now available on general availability. So if you have ever said to yourself, wouldn't it be great if we had purchasing to AP automation a capability? When we do. Also, one good thing about this is it does work with approvals. The approvals will be a one-to-one relationship for now. And so I can't stress enough about how fantastic this automation is, because all of the automation in Sage Intacct is using machine learning, right? Machine learning works hand in hand with AI. The machine learning is the learning engine. And so what happens here is, people are very nervous about AI if they're not as much on the tech side, right? So how it works is machine learning teaches you. If it doesn't know, or it teaches the AI, if it doesn't know, let's say for fact, we have 98% accuracy with this accounts payable and purchasing automation. And that's true story, 98%. And it's like, well, how can that be, right? It is AI and machine learning will always be way more accurate than humans will be, right? Even though we're teaching it. The other 2%, you're saying, well, what happens with that? What if that slips through? What happens is the system bounces back a notification to the designated person saying, hey, this dimension didn't line up with the transactions I've seen before. This GL account or this amount, something seems off. It requires your attention. You go in, you edit it, update it, and then you process it. And now you've just taught your AI, right? The machine learning picks that up and then documents it. And that's how come we highly recommend these automated options in Sage Intacct. Not only are they an enormous time saver, they are a huge advocate of, they are very big on being accurate, right? They're so accurate. Also, we have some exciting news about the Sage Intacct import service. Now, yes, you did see that this came out last release. I do have some additional information on that. And so I just wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of it, because it's going to make your CSV import template experience a much more streamlined and much more easier to troubleshoot if you have any errors. Reporting objects. I actually have quite a bit going on about ICRW and some great things that they're giving us access to, and I'll talk about that later in this webinar. But just know, for the core side of things, right, for the core objects, the custom report writer is the report writer that comes with your core package on the accounting side that grabs those single objects, right? For construction, you have your ICRW program, which is way more robust, and it is able to do multiple objects at a time. And when objects are available, they are always available in ICRW as well. Okay, so, all right, so let's dive in. Import change requests. This again was something that was highly requested and voted on out in the community. And if you are not familiar with the community, I will provide a link in the chat before the end of this webinar to you on that. Most of the time you've been introduced to the Sage Intacct community. That is kind of like a end user consultant blog, right? And you can go in and you can join groups, and then you can kind of reach out and say, hey, what are you guys doing for this report? We're doing it this way. Do you have recommendations? I'm seeing this. It is a great place to collaborate and also gain information. Okay, and you should have been introduced to that probably at your kickoff meeting. So it might have been so long ago you don't know that it's out there. So I will provide that link for you. Make sure you get out there and poke around. So importing change request is going to be available through the list view, like you've always done it in most of your import experiences, like with vendors, customers, projects, those types of things. or by importing with the new import template. So as you can see down here in this screenshot, right, this is the change request list view. I simply went to import here, and then it generates this window. And then just like the other import windows, you're going to have download template link. This link links you back to the company setup and import data link as well. Okay, so just two different ways to get to it. All right. So the side note on this is that imported change requests must contain at least one change request entry. And you're thinking, well, duh, right? Well, we like to throw that out there because sometimes it doesn't resonate with us that we need to tell the back end what to do. So you would need to have at least one entry. And good news is you can import draft or posted change requests, because sometimes we don't want to post a change request. We just want it sitting out there, right? So that is all possible. This is the change request ID column header that you're going to see. And let me just pull this document up, this import, because I know everybody's pretty excited about it since we've been waiting for it. Of course, I get the view here. And this is the new CSV template that's on that link, right? So you can see that there's a lot of information that you're going to be able to import into the system. Anybody that's worked with me knows my color coding system, but yellow means that it is definitely required data. And then here is the headers that we're referring to, okay? And you can see anything I have in orange in here, just so you know, is something that's not required by the system to have a successful import, but it is something that we would recommend doing. And you'll notice here at the end, you finally get to that GL account information, okay? So that's great news. So the additional headers are going to be these down here. Oh, and one side note about that. If you are configured in projects to use the change request ID sequences, right? The auto document sequencer that we set that up for you, where it auto generates that ID field for you, then you will not have to provide the change request ID here. Okay, so that's the only time that you would not have to provide it, because the system on the back end is configured to provide it for you. And then I really like that, because then you have a consistent naming format all the way through. But again, you're going to need project ID, change request, line number, and again, the project ID there. Okay. Okay. Improved change request grid with entry reordering and line numbers. Okay. Now you have greater control of how line entries are organized and displayed in change requests to improve your change request or change management process. As you'll notice here, we've got these little 3 lines, and it's always been kind of a developer's inside joke to call it the hamburger icon, as you see here, because it's got the 3 lines. It has a bun, it has a meat and a bun. But if you've been using Sage Intacct, you know that you can grab these grab bars and reorganize list views and move things around, okay? We weren't able to do that here before. So when you're getting all of those additions of new cost codes and materials, now you're going to be able to organize your entries by cost code or by workflow. Okay, that's big for us, right? We wanted that. That is going to greatly improve the clarity and communication onto your printed document templates, right? Like your schedule of values, those types of things. And it's going to be in order, and it's going to be organized in a way that's going to make sense to your approvers now, okay? And then also it appends any of those entries that were added to the end of the list. So before, remember, when we would add something, it would add it to the end of the list. And so then everything looked a little wonky and out of order, and you have to scroll down, okay? So you've got that new drag bar, the hamburger icon, and this note right here. This is the big little gotcha, edit mode, right? You won't see that, or you won't be able to use that feature unless you put the change request record. That's what we're looking at right now, is a change request record into edit mode. And that's very consistent behavior across the board within the Sage Intacct interface, right? Like sometimes you have to save something in order for the cost codes to be available, or maybe you need to put it in edit mode so you can have the ability to actually edit. Okay. So if you're ever in there and you're like, where is this feature? Why can't I drag and drop it? Well, you need to throw it into edit mode and it'll be available to you. And then this, finally, the consistent print order. Your printed documents now reflect the order that appears in the grid based on the new line numbers. Okay, so it will reflect how you have it set up here, where before it was still printing like everything at the end. So great news. Oh yeah, and then this is just kind of continued information about importing those change requests. It's the same thing as what I just showed you before, but for us here, it'd be from that change request list view. Everything's in a list view: bills, invoices, projects, project contracts, cost codes, cost type, right? Everything's in a list view, and that's what it's referring to here. So if you do that, and typically you go to the upper right-hand corner of your list view screen, you'll see an import button. And then that's when you will get this option. Furthermore, you can go to the import data, right? Company setup, import data, and you'll have that list of all of those data imports that are available, or those CSV imports that are available to you. All right, and this one, this is another fantastic one. So before, remember, we were having to add manually, one at a time, when we were setting up our projects, which cost codes are going to be billable or used in the project, right? So now we have a new way to add multiple standard cost codes to the project in a single bulk action. So what you need to do is you go into that standard cost code, right? It could say task. I'm trying to like give you both options there, but most people are using cost code. And when you go to projects and setup and you have your cost code, standard cost code catalog list view, or in your standard cost type catalog list view, right? Then you will get this window or this list view. And then up here, right? It's very, very intuitive, guys. It says add from catalog. Click it, and here's your catalog. Now your catalog has popped up in that same screen without having to create a new tab and toggle around or anything like that. And once you say add from catalog and this pops, you'll now see this select column in the beginning, and you could grab them all individually, or you could grab them here at the top in one fell swoop and grab them all. Okay, side note, make sure that they're billable. If they're, you know, this is a parent level, so it's not billable, but make sure it's billable. But that is already been out for a little bit, even though it's like not, it's actually just general release now, but it's a fantastic feature. Nice time saver. Purchase order document template now includes the primary document summary and detail. This is great stuff. So what it's saying is that on your printed document templates, right? So for example, I pulled this up in this list view. For those of you that are new, you probably have not had that opportunity to see that in action, because typically as consultants, that's what we're doing for you. But this is an example of where you go to access your printed document templates. Within Sage Intacct, there is a whole bunch of them in there as part of your core package. What I have done here in this list view is just narrowed it down by filtering for only the purchasing ones for the sake of this demo. But let me just show you so you can take a look of where that is, right? If we go to the application switcher, select platform services, and then you'll see your printed document templates here. And, you know, by default, typically you have like 80 of them available to you. And what you can do is you can grab that template, download it, edit it, do a save as, and make it your own. And then you're able to come in and add it into the system wherever you need it. So all purchase orders, change requests work with this type of document. Now you might be doing an integration, a third-party project management system outside this system that's flowing through transaction definition workflows into our system. And then you can tie, to those transaction definitions, any document you want. But typically, if it's a third party, they're printing out of that system. But if for any reason they're printing out of this system, we have the ability to customize those. Some people might even want very specific invoices for certain customers. All of that's doable with these documents. But here, it is going to now give you that primary document summary, gives you a more concise overview of the associated primary document. Okay, so it gives you a detailed breakdown of relevant details now of like, okay, that original document source, what the document number is, the reference number is, and any key dates for improved traceability. So again, if you go to the system where I showed you, and you want to filter through, and you can start taking a look at those. And if you have any questions about it, let us know. Sometimes we need to add a specific web services user on the back end for you to use this, but we are always happy to do it for you as well. Just let us know. Okay, support for subtotals on purchasing change orders. Easily calculate and track subtotal revisions from the purchasing change orders. Hallelujah. Another happy dance coming down. Thank you, Sage, right? This is going to give us better control over changes, right? We're going to be able to easily calculate and track subtotal revisions directly from the change order, the purchasing change order. So we're talking more on the commitment side, right? And then this way you know where you're at always, right? What is going to be the financial impact of this update? And it gives you also, this is great, you can see both drafted and posted subtotal amounts on source documents to get a clearer picture of your purchasing activity. I like that Sage is giving us so much access to a lot of these draft features because it really does help in making better decisions. And so how did they do that? Well, what it's doing on the back end, some of you don't care. Some of you need to know, right? I'm a need to know kind of girl. Like, I'd like to know, wait a second, how did they get there? They align the subtotal behavior between the source document and the change order document, right? So remember, the source document is the original document. And in order for us to be able to use this configuration, there is now in your change order configuration in projects, you're going to notice that you have these additional options available to you. Okay, and you're going to be able to come in and you can decide where how it is available to you, right? So this section is available where you can select to sync subtotals with a source document. Okay. Right. Change order information details appear on subcontract. I love where Sage is going with this, you guys, because if you're using the prime contract side of things, right, like the owner contract, your upriver contract through the generate invoices, the one that ties to the customer, ties to your project contract, you can drill down from everything from that project contract record. It has tabs into the subcontracts all the way down to the invoice level, the journal entry level. Like, you can drill down to everything you need from there. And that's kind of where Sage is going on the purchasing side of things for our commitments, which is super fantastic. So as you can see here on this subcontract record example here, that there's 4 tabs. You have transaction tab, and then this change documents tab, posting details and history tab. So this is going to give us the ability to come in and look at the source doc information now. Okay, so this is a tab, and then we have our show details here. Of course, it says hide details because it's expanded. If you've been working in Sage Intacct, you know that this is very common and consistent behavior in Sage Intacct. Each line on your entries table has a show details, and then you go in and you can tag all of your different dimensions. The same concept is here true, but it's more just for the information side. So you can see where the draft options are now. So you can see the original, you can see what's drafted, you can see what's posted. A lot more insight being given to us there. All in one screen, all in one click, all drillable. Posted change order subtotals on the subcontract. Another great one, the subcontract with subtotals here. You change order details for a purchase order appear on the header now. So on that transaction tab, you're going to see posted changes, revised item totals, revised subtotals, revised transactions, and with a dollar amount. So, you know, like I said, just every enhancement, we're getting more and more. It's really nice to be able to have everything on one screen or one tab. A little side note here on the good to knows. Enabling subtotals on purchasing source documents using a new transaction definition that has no existing documents attached to it. So yes, this does require a new transaction definition being entered into the back end of your system in the transaction configuration. If you're not comfortable or familiar with that, that is what we're here for. We've done all of that for you in the past. And so we would put that new transaction definition in, and then it is for any new purchasing documents going forward. A lot of these enhancements, you have to think about how the back end works. And so a lot of times these enhancements don't go backwards into your data and update all of your data. It just will grab the new task and do it moving forward. And in this case, because we need a new transaction definition, right? You're going to use that new transaction definition right now when you go into purchasing and the all tab and you grab your purchase order or your change order, your commitment options there. That's your transaction definition. And that's what this means here. You select the transaction definition. That's going to be the new one for your purchasing documents going forward. You just give it any name you want in the interface, really, but of course you would name it something that makes sense. And this little note too, you cannot enable subtotals on change order transaction definition directly, but if they're linked to a single source transaction definition, the change order transaction definitions are inherited. Okay, so this might be a lot right now for this webinar to get into, but it's just very important. So I wanted to make sure that you do understand it. If you don't, again, that's what you have us for, and we're happy to take care of it. And also, a little side note, this is only going to be applied for the original entries in the source documents and delta entries in change orders. Specify a primary project estimate forecast for quick access. Okay, so the example that I'm giving you here is the project estimate record. And remember that you go into projects, and underneath your projects option under your all tab, projects all, you'll notice your project estimates options there, and that's one way to navigate to it. And when we wanted to recognize an estimate, say in our WIP reporting or any other reporting, the system on the back end only recognizes the primary estimate, right? So that's kind of the same concept here. This forecasting is going to let you, when you mark it as a primary, then that way it identifies this one as being used in the forecast estimate for reporting purposes and things. Okay. And remember, only one estimate per project can be set as a primary forecast. That's the same behavior that you get with the primary estimate, right? Only that will be recognized, same with the primary forecast. Okay, a new field. So pre-fill project on change request entry. This is a time saver. This is great for those data entry people, especially for those of you that are dealing with hundreds, if not thousands of change request lines, right? When you go into your change request information now, you're going to notice this field. Okay. When you select that project ID, the system will auto-generate multiple lines down here for you with the project already entered. So it works a lot like that location dimension in a multi-entity where it just shows up, right? So no problem on overwriting it. You can update that or blank it out, whatever you choose to do. It is just really meant to give you a more streamlined experience and save you time. Oh yeah. So little side notes on these. Fields only auto-populate when you create a change request. So keep that in mind. You have to create it. And then when you edit the change request, only existing lines appear. And when you create a new change request to save the change request line entries, make sure at least one of the following is present. This is pretty close to how the workflow is now, right? It requires that there's some data in there. If you're editing an existing change request, you will be able to save the change request entry lines with 0 value in the cost, price, and unit price columns and the blank memo field. So I would definitely test this, and see how that workflow works for you so that when you are on the fly and working on a project and wanting to get this process, that you know what to expect. There's a new import service. So there's a couple of verbiages that are kind of crossing over here. Like, for example, that we have the new import service for the import data. But what this is referencing here is that for WIP, you will now be able to download an import template, and then you will be able to import that template here. So when you are in we used to call it WIP management, now it's called WIP scheduling. You will be able to come in, and when you put it in edit mode, and you will see these more actions over here on the drop down. So they're not up here in a button like we're kind of used to in some other areas. I think it just was a matter of the interface and how much space we have there. So if you go to more actions in your WIP scheduling, you're going to be able to get that import and then use that import for your WIP projects. You also are always able to, again, get that import template from the import data option as well. Okay, recalc totals. This one, it often stumps people because, it's hard to find on the fly and you're thinking, why are my dollar amounts not updating? What is going on here? Well, recalc totals has been available for that. And now it will also automatically populate missing dimensions on project contract line entries. So it's going to give you that consistency that you need between project contract information and its project contract line entries. Okay, so again, more actions, recalculate totals is your friend to update those amounts and update any missing dimensions on the contract lines. Updating project contract customer after billing. Okay, so this is another one that I know I personally have had a few requests for. You're going to be able to print your time and material and expenses billing details directly from the project contract invoices now. Okay, you don't have to create a separate report anymore. And that's really nice because sometimes you're adding that in to, for billing or whatever your situation is. But once you do that, you're going to be able to sort, filter, and group all billed expenses with links for easy navigation to review the original cost entry. So what it's saying is you have drill down. You have drill down, okay, all across the board. If you go in to a project contract and you're like, gosh, I know I have some lines in here. Where are they? I know I billed. What's going on? Just use your update summary billing details button here. That's almost like the refresh option or, and the recalculate totals, same concept, is just refreshing it. And then you'll see all of your lines in there. Okay, reporting. When we talk reporting for construction, our primary reporting focus is on ICRW. So there is now some enhanced construction report library reports, and they are already available to you in the ICRW report library. Construction reports that have been enhanced for improved performance. And I do have a list of those reports coming up. And you're saying to yourself, well, how would they improve the performance? As you know, some of these ICRW construction reports were created by Sage Development, and they required SQL coding on the back end. And so they could have been heavy, right? They could have been from a while back. And so as they give us more access to these reporting areas and these objects to work within the system, the performance improves greatly, because it's not having to go through lines and lines of coding to get to where it needs to be. So that's how they've done that. And then the new ICRW and IVE. IVE, you probably haven't heard of it unless you've purchased it. Interactive Visual Explorer is it's an amazing dashboard program. So if you have greater needs for dashboarding outside of the ones that Sage Intacct already provides for us, which I personally think are pretty great, then IVE might be for you. It's a very like the SQL feel, BI dashboard feel, if you're familiar with that, right? So how you configure these IVE reporting areas are exactly the same as the ICRW. Okay, so now there's some project payroll options that are available, billable project task, and then of course what we talked about was the WIP forecast. Okay, let's get to some of those core enhancements here. The line level matching for smarter purchasing automation, early adopter. The line level matching, this is the same concept, guys, as like your GL outlier, right? All those matchings in your reconciliation, same concept here. It introduces a more precise way to automate transactions processing with AP automation with purchasing instead of relying on source transaction data. Again, it's using AI and machine learning on the back end, but it's just really going to help reduce manual corrections and improve automated transaction draft current accuracy as well. The matching is fantastic. It is a huge time saver. It's going to give you back hundreds and hundreds of hours a year in work time. Why? Well, line level matching increases the accuracy, as you've heard me say. So that is probably one of the best things about it. And how it works is it's flagging the discrepancies based on quantity or price, which is very consistent with how we configure your Sage construction system. Then it notifies you, like I mentioned before, and you say, hey, this is how it should have been. You update it and then process it. And then it has learned from those edits. Here is an example of the new import service. I did want to show this to you here as well. Let me pull this up in the actual system. Okay, remember let me just take you back to home base here. Application switcher, you go to company, setup, import data, right? This is where we go to grab all of those CSV templates that Sage has provided to us. And you may have noticed a new import service link right there in the company setup checklist. So in the import data feature, that's where you're going to get to this screen. And it's taking its sweet time. So I will move it aside because ultimately what it's doing is it's generating this screen here. Okay. So what they're calling this now is a workspace. So this came out, this option, this new import service has been out for a while. But what's new with it, with the enhancement, is how it's handling what it's calling a workspace. And it works so well, guys. And also, like, the things to know is how it handles the errors is improved greatly. The file formats are being extended. And it's, they're continually enhancing this each release. So a workspace is going to remember the imports that you've worked on before. That's really nice, right? errors at the line level and field level with error messages that at the point of need, where before, remember when we're doing it the way that it originally was set up, and most of us are still using that way, is that you get one error at a time and you get an email and you go through it. And then, you know, now you're going to be getting very, a lot more detail of what's going on, because before, some of those errors, unless you worked in Sage Intacct for a while, if you were new, they were a little cryptic, and so that kind of goes away now. AI matching to make mapping data into Intacct easier. Perfect. We love AI. And then the ability to import direct from Excel spreadsheets, including files with multiple tabs. Before, with CSV, you guys are all Excel gurus, I know you are, you know, then you can only essentially import one tab at a time is how it was set before. So, all right. And oh, here is some more examples of the enhancements. So links to right here, create for available imports. You can start the create process from the welcome page and then select create to add new records to Intacct. The links to the update lines for available imports. You can update existing records with the update process. That is unbelievable. Like the, you know, because before it was kind of a manual process that you had to do it twice. Now you're going to be able to update existing records. So it will tell you when you log in if it's something that is compatible with that. Not everything is yet, but it's very clearly stated in the interface of the work, in the work group area. Create and updates are now two separate processes, where in the previous release, they were together. Okay, so when updating existing information, only include the records to be updated in the import file. Some people get lazy, right? We're all guilty of that. You're like, I'm just going to do the fixes. It's just going to ignore the stuff that's in there already. Not true. Make sure that you include only the records to be updated in the import file. I have not tested this yet, but usually what could happen is that essentially the data doubles up, and you don't want that, because then it becomes a pain to back it out. And then of course your templates available for imports. Download a template for the import that you want to work on. So again, that might give you multiple options in the different file formats. Enhanced lists. Okay, this shows you here. All you need to do is click on that link. This is for every list view. And, you know, some people are not always ready to jump into a new option. This enhanced list view option has been available on just about every list throughout the Sage Intacct system, including projects and things. And what it does is it gives you a lot more options to filter your data. I highly recommend it. They've given us, what, a year or 2 years, maybe more, to start acclimating to this option. And so now when you log in, it's going to auto default to this enhanced list view. If you want to turn it off for any reason, you can. And essentially all you're going to have to do is, I'll show you in the system here. Let's go to a vendor list view. Okay. We go into our list view, and again, all these list views behave the same. I logged in. Okay, now the update happened. It's already available. If you go over here to the 3 dots on any of these list views, you're going to notice a turn off enhanced list. Okay, but at the end of the day, you should really take the time to go ahead and start getting yourself used to this new interface, because eventually that option to go back to the old way of navigating will go away. This has been out, like I said, for a few years, so it's time to start adopting this. And trust me, when you do, you're going to be really pleased with the additional options you have. If you have been sending any emails from your domain, then you have to go through this. And like it says here, second line, non-negotiable requirements as we transition to fully enhanced email delivery service. So if you've been sending it from your domain, let us know. We're happy to help you out with this. But you must authenticate and validate your domain with this new enhanced email delivery service. And I know many of you end up, you're more on the finance side, and then you end up wearing the IT hat, and you're like, what does that even mean? So if you don't know, just reach out to us. And but again, it's just when you are sending it from your domain, maybe it's ap@constructioncompany.com, right? Like something to that nature where it's grabbing your company domain in those emails. Why is this important? This is going to make sure that it's authenticating all of your emails, right? And authenticating your domain, your company website ensures that you'll have a streamlined process happening and it's uninterrupted, and you don't get anybody calling saying, hey, I got to bounce back or something to that nature. Okay, so this too, when you authenticate your domain, it reduces the chances of your messages being marked as spam or not reaching the recipients. We all know nowadays everybody has a pretty strict spam filter for good reason, right? Your IT guys are doing their job, keeping your data safe, your network safe, those types of things. Protecting your domain aligns with best practices. And so again, this whole thing is very technical for some people. And so your network administrator on your side would definitely know about the DNS keys and the other information we need to in order to set this up. So we're happy to work with them on that. ICRW enhancements, okay? As I mentioned earlier, we now have the ICRW report library has some new stuff out there. Remember, we'll go back to home base just to kind of clear your head of where I'm navigating to. Go to application switcher. We come down to reports, and the Alt tab, you have your interactive custom report writer, right? This is the ICRW list view. And from this list view, then you will be able to access the report library. And that is what it's referencing. Now, word to the wise on this. If you do this and you install one of those reports from the report library and it has the same name as any of your other reports in your list view, it could overwrite it. In fact, it will overwrite it in most cases. So what I recommend is that you give your reports that you've already been working with and that you know that you need, then give it its own naming convention. What we recommend typically as a best practice is that you give it your own naming convention. Like, let's say it was Raphael Construction, then I might have RC dash and then the name of the report. Okay, so then that way the system recognizes it as not the same report, doesn't overwrite it. We're happy to help you with all of that stuff too, and teach you how to install from there, because that reports library is so valuable. You can edit those reports, download them, make them your own, add columns, formulas, computations, combine things. So they're really powerful reports. These two reports are new and now available in that library. Inception to date balances, right? That has been a really big one for the customer base requesting that. So now you're going to be able to track your asset, liability, and equity accounts, as well as the daily activity and running totals of income, cost, and expense accounts. Then this one here too, the date format ICRW report. This is more of a design template that you can use as a basis for customizing your reports. And then it provides those report designers an example, date columns, formulas. If you've ever built these reports or you've been part of that process, you know that it's very, very specific about the date formatting and things like that. Before, it was difficult to get those beginning and end dates on the filters form and things, but that, they're giving us it more and more. So this is another step towards making that experience much more pleasurable than it has been. This too, little side note, what's been enhanced, the assets, depreciation, and the net book value objects. Offers new views and provides enhanced performance for ease of use. So what they're saying, how that provides better performance is there's less going on in the background because it's an actual object now and not just SQL coding. Here is the reports. Okay, enhanced ICRW reports. Again, something's been done, some work on the back end to make them run faster. Hallelujah. We like when reports run quickly. So these two, okay, all of these, if you're using construction payroll, there is so many new reports out there, are reporting areas that are available to create new reports. Also on the project side, on the construction side, the contracts line task, that reporting area relates to billable tasks. So billable cost codes to a project contract line. Thank you, Sage. Thank you. Thank you. And also with reporting for payroll, there's already a lot of pre-built ICRW reports that come with your core package. There's a whole payroll reporting package that can be installed. And then in addition to that, you get these reports as well. Okay, so that gets us to the end here. I wanted to make sure that you guys know how to reach out to support. Please do if you have any questions. That is the email, that is the phone number. And if you are ever questioning what events and webinars are coming up, we do have a link out there on our website available. And that's everything for today. Thank you for attending, everyone. Have a great day.